Very good morning, class. This lecture is about cloud infrastructure services and the code is TCS 761. Myself, Dr. Sachin Sharma. I'm going to start Unit 3, the Understanding Services Oriented Architecture. The abbreviation is SOA. We'll discuss about the introduction of SOA, event-driven SOA, SOA 2.0, Enterprise Service Bus, service catalogs, defining SOA communications, managing and monitoring SOA, SOA security, relating SOA and cloud computing. In brief, we will discuss about how this service-oriented architecture is helpful for the client as well as the cloud computing service provider and their users. This is view graph of service-oriented architecture enabled scenario in banking system. We start from the lower section, which has different components such as partner credit card data, backend system, and the customer data. Over the internet, all data is synchronized with the reusable services, which are the payment management system, credit check, fraud detection, access service. This access service about the customer access their bank info, interest calculation. This interest calculation happens at the banking service provider site. Balance check, where user can check the balance of their account. The customer data service, which consists of different type of service. So every data which is related to the financial transaction, that if a user given a check to any organization or any person, at which date it is cleared and what was the amount. So all those data are stored in the database of the banking system. And the trade execution service. So these are the reusable services which can be accessed through internet by the service provider as well as the client or customer. There is unified role-based view which has reusable business components such as auto loans, bill pay, credit card, mortgage, stocks, and mutual funds, and many more. So whenever you access your online internet banking, whether it's SBI, PNB, HDFC, Axis Bank, you'll be able to see multiple options there. So those are the business components to which the user connect with their banks. And the user can use their personal desktop, mobile phone, tablet, laptop, so any device which is helpful to the user to access their banking data. And that is the scenario that we are going to use for service oriented architecture. And we're gonna discuss little further. So service oriented architecture has 4 layers. We start with the shared network based layer services. So the first layer is resource layer, which consists of every possible resources which are related to the service oriented architecture. Next is service layer, which consist of the different types of services provided by the service provider. Next is process orchestration layer, which consists of the automated process, which is part of the service provider. And the access layer is related to the providing the interface, the interaction between client and users. So these are the four layers: resource layer, service layer, process orchestration layer, and access layer. The benefits of service oriented architecture is flexible, agile information technology, which is adaptable to changing any business needs as per the client and the customer requirement. The next benefit of SOA is faster time to market. So it is actually very as per the demand, and it is very fast responsive to the market as the market change. It the SOA architecture accommodate itself as per the demand. The reuse existing code can be done and minimize new development. So the development cycle takes very little time to update under SOA as per the new demand comes in the market. Uh, the template and the front look it change, and many of you must have seen that on Google, whenever you enter into the browser, this Google comes, and every day it is something based on certain themes, and so that is kind of the good example of SOA. And the next is business and process driven, which has new business opportunities if any enterprise merge with the existing organization. The SOA has capability to accommodate those structures, and the very important benefit of SOA is greater uh, return of ROI. So it's leverage existing IT assets. Whatever you put in the business, the money, it should give at least return. So that SOA provide good return of investment. So this is what ROI means. So those are the benefits of SOA. Now we'll talk about the architecture. The service-oriented architecture, it's an architecture principle for structuring systems into core-screened service. It's technology neutral best practice, and SOA emphasizes the loose coupling of the service so that if there are any changes as per the market demand, it should be able to accommodate and should be able to facilitate the new services as per the requirement in the market. The SOA provide a function or service to create the new service from the existing one, or if any separation is required in the template, or anything which is required as add-on, it can be done in SOA. It also has the strong service definition, which is critical in terms of as the business requirement change very frequently. So the meaning to provide the services is also subject to change in SOA. The services can be recomposed when business requirements change. So the case can be happen that, for example, if you are using Amazon app and you are using the payment, for example, PayPal or UPI, it can happen that in the market in the coming days that for any reason the government or the RBI ban, for example, Paytm. So what should happen, that Paytm option should be immediately removed from every possible payment system, payment gateways, so that will system who are providing that service as a payment method, payment gateway, they should be able to recompose it, right? That payment system, the complete system, they have to remove it, right? So that is the part of SOA. As the market demand change, policy change, the system should be able to adapt themselves. So this is all about SOA. The applications of SOA. The developers need to build end-to-end application, which consist of the front-end user interfaces, middle tier business logic, and the back-end resources. So those three things are important. The front end, which connects with the user, middle tier business logic, which connect to the client vision, and the back-end resources, the resource that organization has. So the developer has to meet that requirement. With the right approach, developers can reuse the existing part, and that's a good thing for the developers. So they don't have to actually develop it from the scratch. If something change in the system, they can build new parts, and they can glue old and new parts together. It means it has well designed, and it has very well developed in terms of reutilization of the existing code templates, uh, and it's very helpful for the developer. With the wrong approach, developer must be aware that if something happens with the reutilization of the code, the developer has to fix that one and create the small components so that they can segregate and accommodate as per the business requirement. The real world applications are that web applications, Java, EE applications, Swing forms, web services, BPL processes, SOA, JBI, RDBMS. So real world application use many or all of these. So it is not actually restricted to any single one. It's contain every possible development portals, development platforms, where all possible development platform can be integrated. There are traditional application development. The point technologies, product and application programming interfaces. For example, EJB, Spring, Hibernate, JSF, Servlet, Struts, etc. And there are lots of glue written by developers that require the great deal of expertise and time, and that's inflexible. The point solution is very important uh, previously, where whenever the problem comes and the developer, the solution provider gives the solution for that particular problem, and whenever the new problem raise, they develop the another solution, and it just it is something that there are a lot of glues where many points are attached by the developer. The composite solutions, it's a way to compose application from reusable parts, and the composite application employ service-oriented architecture principles, which has the features to and which is exposed as web services. It has the standard space interaction between services, and SOA principles are themselves composable. What are the services? The black box component with well-defined interfaces which performs some arbitrary function, which work is already fixed, and it can be implemented in the Marite ways, and accessed using XML message exchange using well-known message exchange pattern MEPs, and the metadata in the form of WSDL describes the abstract interface and concrete endpoints. Here we are talking about the services which are related to SOA in multiple aspects. What can services do? The services can perform business logic, which shows the functionality of any kind of business, whether it's financial related, whether it is e-commerce related, or whether it's data driven business. The services can transform the data. It can route the messages as per the requirement. It can query databases. It can apply business policy. It can handle business exceptions. It can prepare information for use by a user interface. And the services can orchestrate conversation between multiple services. So that's it for the day. I hope you have enjoyed the lecture. Thank you.